These traits all lead to category number 14, which is also number 88, headstrong, which is another this group of category that the Bible puts together of 88 headstrong and 89 self-willed. Whenever you have a difficult world that is pushing everyone into survival, a lot of these traits come out, especially in youth. Strong, selfish, defensive, aggressive, fast, hard, unstoppable. So it's something to be careful with in our repentance and our working with the Lord, because we are in those days where iniquity abounds, and that maybe this is part of why the love of many waxes cold, is all these evil things we're having to deal with. But this makes a person very, number 90, defensive of their decisions. Like if you question them, you will get the defense and the rage, and never confront them with the truth of their crimes, right? And there's a specific trio of traits that I see together in someone who has like a root of bitterness that's in with all of this. This is going to be 91, 92, and 93. Antagonistic, angry, and aggressive. Pacing, ripping, snorting, easily triggered, anger under the surface. But be careful, because once more in church that shows up as a charismatic and Pentecostal fire, or jokes, sly, underhanded little jabs, and craftily hidden, brave, strong, feisty, cute, jovial, happy, and where there is strife and envy, there is every evil work. And you may notice that they're judgmental of everyone, hardcore, including people who deserve honor, or they do the whole negging thing where they say something negative, but it's a joke. They say negative things about you constantly, but it's all jokes, and everyone laughs. But you can tell they're angry and aggressive under the surface. And anyway, often seen in charismatic leaders. Now, some of these characteristics will disappear when they're love bombing, or when they're suddenly with a new addiction like that. But that doesn't mean it's gone. That just means they're onto a different phase of narcissism, and this is going to come right back after love bombing is over. The new supply is going to have to deal with antagonistic, angry, jokes about themselves, aggressive, which leads to 94, dogs, ravening dogs, picking fights with you. They want to win, so they pick a fight so they can argue and then win. Desperate and can't wait to pick a fight with you or fight with someone. Sometimes they just want to fight with somebody. A lust to rip something apart and prove that they dominated and won. They want to rip and tear. 95, ravening wolf. So beware of that, because maybe I'm just getting older, right? Or at least just getting old and mature enough. I'm not in my 20s anymore, where I'm not interested in this. This is not attractive to me. I just want peace of mind, you know? If this came anywhere around me, I would be like, bye-bye. Our next category is the 15th category, which is number 96. Foolish. All of these behaviors are 97. Unwise, lacking introspection, not workable. Number 98. Hasty, rash. When they're driven by addiction, lust, and power and ego. Haste is one of their tools, because they can also catch more victims with speed. When you start slowing down and studying things and asking questions, you will trigger their injury and their rage, because you're taking power away from them to deceive and to coerce and to control. And that's one of the things where I'm like, whenever you're confused about are you dealing with a narcissist or not, and you're willing to wait a few months and just pick out red flags, this is one of those that often pops up, not only in what they're doing right now, but other decisions they've made in their life of, wow, they're fast. They didn't think about that much at all. Boom. That was fast. And like everyone always says, how quickly they're with new supply or a new hobby or a new pet or a new something. It's always something shiny object syndrome. Hasty and rash. And once more, a difficult speed to match. Some of them are so hasty and so rash that it would constantly set you off guard to keep pace with them, because not because wow they're full of energy, no, because they're scattered, they're not put together, they're going to be abusive because of that, and they're going to make unwise decisions that are going to make you very uncomfortable, and on and on. Just another mismatch, and another you just deserve to have more peace than that. And in order for them to be able to trap very smart, very capable people, they have to work with things like speed. They have to. And it's just amazing how quickly they've come to figure that out. When they're led around by pleasure and instant gratification. Instant gratification. That's another reason why they're so fast. They're easily misled by pleasure. And 99, this is back to that stupid thing I was talking about. Someone just led by pleasure, or whoever flatters them, or whoever lies to them and tells them what they want to hear. I mean, I hope you can see that no amount of an addictive lust to this person, like you can get away from that if they've tried to build that in you. You do not want to live this lifestyle. But number 99, shiny object syndrome, because they see mainly and only 100, shallow and vain. But because they can't see deeply, they will be insatiable because they aren't satisfied, because it's not real and it's not intimate and all that. So it leads to a grass is greener decisions, jumping around, always looking for better supply in the background. The new supply is not secure. It's an illusion. Looking for a better option. And this is another thing, like in Psalm 37, where it talks about fret not yourself from an evildoer. That's back to focus. One of the reasons why you block them in the meantime, while they're doing all of their lying and all of their spreading themselves like a green bay tree or whatnot, you just block that. One of the reasons you block that is your focus. When you already know the truth, you already know where that's going, don't even waste your time fretting with what it looks like in their temporary illusion, because that's the only power they have. The only power they have is a temporary illusion that's not going to even be here. It's like, would you rather? Okay, would you rather have all the chocolate that you could eat for 30 days and then no more chocolate after that, ever? Or would you rather have no chocolate for 30 days and then reasonable amounts of chocolate from that time forward? You know, it may not be just piles and piles of Hershey's chocolate and chocolate fountains all in your front yard, but you can have like a piece of Oreo pie, and you can have a chocolate milkshake and everything in one day from then on, which is way more than 30 days. Well, the narcissist would say, give me 30 days of as much chocolate as I can take and I'll figure out the rest later. It's like, no wisdom. And the thing is, if you're sitting there for 30 days with no chocolate, which is like a silly idea, but I hope you guys get the picture. If you're going to sit there for 30 days with no chocolate while they're gorging themselves on chocolate, just don't even watch that. It's a lie, it's an illusion, it's temporary, and it's silly. Don't even watch that, because you're going to have whatever you want after that 30 days. And so you'll see that principle a lot in life of fret not yourself means don't even watch it. Don't focus on that. Back to your key coaching tip, focus. Don't even focus on that. Like, completely block it and give it zero power. Focus on what you're going to have after that 30 days. And have the faith to know it's there, because it is. It's just as real as anything else. And of course, in Psalm 37, that would be focus on the justice that will come. And have the faith for it. So they will be shallow and vain and jump around for better options, and they will not sit in one place and truly build, even though they may think they're building. It will be on sand or whatnot. They don't know how to truly build, and their general habits and proclivities are that they're not building, but they may think they are and tell everyone they are. Even if they do get some quality in a person like that, they will devalue them over nothing because they don't understand. So it's easier to fall into these kind of pitfalls and things if you're in an impoverished environment, which we are here at the very end of time kind of idea. But so many of us, like quality people, would not even be tempted by this at all if there was an abundance of quality. That's why I tell the older generations, don't wonder why we're making these videos. Don't wonder. You're not here. Don't sit there and act like we don't know what we're doing, talking about, and we're over obsessing and focusing on something that's not even realistic because you've had a quality marriage for decades. Really, you should look at your quality marriage for decades and say life isn't fair because they'll never have that because the foundations are destroyed. That kind of thing. And I don't even sit there and spend any time lamenting that. I don't. Even though I probably should from a moral standard, from a moral basis, I don't. I focus on anything that I can do for the Lord instead. But I'm just saying, I will not hear it from the older generations. I will not hear that I'm making up the narcissistic phenomenon and it's not happening and it's not real. I won't hear it because it saved my life. Knowing this information has pulled me out of some holes and has saved me tears and heartache and headache, and I give the glory to God. So I see these people as criminals who are taking advantage of a bad economy to price gouge people and things like that, to scam desperate people. They'll say, oh, I can go around and find, take advantage of people that are looking for quality and pretend like I'm quality when I'm not. Just a thought. This is the category of 96 foolish, and I'm moving on to the next category. A big reason for them being very shallow and vain is the 16th category of 101. We forget this aspect too, but it keeps showing up all the time. Immature, 102. Toddler. They refuse to accept accountability. Now, there is the person that will constantly hold themselves accountable and take great painstaking lengths to be as accountable and responsible as they can, so that when somebody comes along and accuses them of not being responsible, they get triggered by that because they've killed themselves to be responsible. But that's different and more rare. These are people that make their own rules, pride themselves of being above any and all rules. So when you try to say, hey, this hurts people, then they get triggered. And this is their lifestyle, and you better not come across it, or they may kill you. Back to the category of killer. So whenever it comes to introspection, truth, taking care of something, and they're often at the emotional state of number 102, toddler. So if they've done this for 10 years or longer, they're likely, like that you hear that so you become expert at something if you have about 10,000 hours of practice. So a lot of these narcissists have 10,000 hours of practice at their trickery, manipulation, scamming. So a toddler has low emotional intelligence. They're whiny, they're nitpicky, they're petty, they're childish. That's why I don't understand people saying, oh, you didn't put the cap on the toothpaste, you didn't pick up your socks. To me, that's only going to bother you if this is a person who's already mistreating you and taking you for granted. If they're a person that's treating you right and paying bills and being thoughtful, little things around the house are not going to be a big deal at all. I would think. But anyway, they're not really productive a lot of times. Now, some narcissists are very productive. That's just part of what they, their personality. But the ones who are very immature can go from project to project and never finish something, or they're just not productive, or counterproductive. Won't let you be productive, ruin your day, make a big deal of nothing, like the histrionic, thin-skinned emotions, being like basically tantrums easily over nothing. They don't value peace. They don't work for peace. So they will turn what should be a great memory, a good memory you could have someone, into a disaster over nothing, over little dumb things. Things that could be overlooked, brushed aside, not a big deal, happens all the time in life. We spilled a little something, doesn't matter. It's a disaster. It could have been a great memory. It should have been a great memory for everyone involved, and a blessing, and productive, and growing, and stable. These are not people that you really can build with and build great things with. These are not great people. These are not powerful people in reality. They're weak, out of control, damaging, destructive, and they do it all the time. Back to the example of the toddler raging in the store everywhere you go. Dysfunctional. You do not have to settle for that. They're often called, which is number 103, a man-child or a woman-child. They're often called this from their state of immaturity. You will not see how immature that they are until you hear the phrases, like them being called a man child or a woman child. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. They do have that aspect. A lot of these aspects, guys, and these traits, especially when you're not studying a person because they're not concerned about them trying to make a relationship with you or whatnot. They're just a peripheral person in your life that you meet in passing. You get this kind of if you don't really have narcissistic abuse trauma or something, you will get just the idea of that's what that person is to me. They're kind of this way or this-ish or that-ish. They're just kind of that way. And then you have to start looking for signs of danger, like, wow, that person is dangerously immature. Wow, they are dangerously manipulative. They are dangerously this or that or the other. And you realize, I was just thinking of them as just a kind of an immature, as part of their personality. But it's just one of the many puzzle pieces that you may find falling into place when you start seeing red flags, if something actually comes up. I've kind of gotten a feel of some of my abusers in the past at what mental age they are. It's come across to me like 10-year-old, but mostly 6 or 4-year-old. And a lot of times there's a theory of number 104, arrested development, like they were severely traumatized at some age, and that's what age they're stuck at. They can just believe everything's an object to play with, including you. And then if it's rewarding enough in their life, they may feel like that's the correct way to see people and treat them. This is why they don't take rules and laws seriously as they're a child, and they think that gives them a special celebrity right to dismiss rules and laws, as everything can be just laughed and joked off of. I'm at another level. I play on another field. Everything is fun. If everything's fun and disposable, we don't have to respect it, and we don't have to be serious. Because we're a child, we don't have to be serious and grave and sober. And so they don't have the idea of God or authority, and that's a joke to them. Everything is for pleasure only, and for their pleasure specifically. Like the one who wants to eat the sweets all the time and never the vegetables or the meat. Sometimes this can be due, according to some theories, to specific trauma or extra spoiling. I think it can also come from lies that are built into their life. Spiritual layering of evil that blocks and blinds them to the truth, the God of this world. Evil forces, reprobate mind. Closely related to our next category, our 17th category, is number 105, fragmented, which trauma can also do. A person can be fragmented to escape or to keep their lives going, living lives with many different people and groups, and to support all the things that I've been discussing. Compartmentalizing due to lies, lying and living in evil ways toward others that require lies to cover. This is the fragmenting. Becoming such a deep liar. This is where all this started, is their liar is their first language, lying. So they become fragmented into alternate invented fantasies and realities due to selfish purposes, to suit their selfish purpose. And I believe that God will help someone who's traumatized, but he won't help something that you're lying and just refuse not to stop lying. And this may explain how some traumatized people heal and seem fine, and others just went evil. I don't know, maybe some of it, but there is a lot of power in some evil. That's just not fair. This is why it's important to sacrifice and choose the light at all costs when you can. When you're given a clear choice of light, go for it. Do not get caught in becoming like the kind of narcissist because, you just took an easy path or didn't feel like it or whatever. So regardless of what you've been through, don't use it as an excuse. Stay healthy and as best you can. Of course, people can be fragmented for many reasons, and the enemy will often design things into your life to try to fragment you, or temptations, weak spots. Remember to stay repentant and humble to get God's blessing. And a fragmented narcissist, if they don't choose help, sometimes it's because their addiction is so strong. Or maybe they just are still believing lies for one reason or other. I think the devil really talks to everybody because he's constantly trying to trick everyone. Like the lie will talk to you and seduce you and trick you. So be careful. about whenever you're getting a lie, if something is useless, it's pointless, give up, or a lie that this is going the worst way possible, these people think about you the worst way possible, there's no hope here and it's not going to change and it's bad. But a fragmented narcissist can easily become, number 106, a reprobate in their fragmented state and given over if they keep choosing pleasure, if they keep choosing power over the truth. That's a very dangerous place to be. I would say avoid at all costs. Another thing God won't bless is when you're deliberately using and abusing other people and don't care, and you have other options, but you just don't care. Some people, though, they're addicted to lying to cope, and they're deep asleep. They're hypnotized into the lie. The power of darkness has that hold on them. They're blinded by the God of this world. That's another thing that you would want to avoid at all costs, is being blinded by the God of this world. They don't know how to stop, or it may seem too painful, or too impossible, or too damaging. And they live different lives, and therefore they're often, number 107, a chameleon with movable ways. You would not believe how different they are than what you've seen. You would not believe how different the narcissist can be than what you've seen. That's why whenever someday they dump you and they're suddenly a whole different person with a whole different supply the next day, and they don't know who you are and they act like they don't know who you are, it's like they're just a whole different person. Well, they were the whole time. This is how different they can be. This is how fragmented they can be. How changeable. And this is how they get their own way. They con other people at the expense of others. This explains how they can be so, number 108, an extremist, and 109, splitting, where they see it all one way or all the other way, because they can be so different. I've even called it clownish before, and it can show up in their expressions. They can make the most clownish and extreme expressions sometimes. The extreme switches between fake realities. They hate you, they like you. Like I saw one poor person was complaining in the group before on social media about how their narcissist came in and cussed him out, and came in and said, I want to make up with you. I shouldn't have broke up with you. I'm sorry. Came back in and cussed him out again and broke up with him. And then came back acting desperate, like they didn't know what they wanted to do. Like they were literally back and forth. Which am I trying to be? It's like the narcissist. Like some people are not as aware and they don't know what they're doing or why. And this narcissist was very unaware. And it seemed like he was just following the whim of the moment. And so he was literally doing the chameleon extremist, the splitting, and the fragmented with her. Back and forth, all in the same day. And I've seen different complaints of a narcissist doing this too, of being extreme back and forth, of wanting to do something but not. And sometimes you see these kind of things in teenagers that just haven't developed yet, and are learning how to control their emotions and their independence and all of that. But going back and forth, hating you, liking you, breaking up with you, wanting to marry you. I think that was how extreme it was on that post. He wanted to get engaged to her after he had cussed her out, broke up with her, like 2 hours ago. And then came back acting disturbed. The narcissist was acting disturbed, like they didn't know why they were behaving that way and wished that they understood themselves. Exactly. They confuse their own self if they don't know what's up. They can have it switch between extremely hating, but then extremely liking people, things, ideas. That's because they've been easily divided and conquered somewhere along the line. It leads to them often being very, number 110, unbalanced. And this is why a lot of them desperately need their supply to even them out, to balance them out. They're unbalanced, and this is why they unbalance you in order to balance themselves, and you end up in shambles while they end up satisfied. And then after a while, they get tired of you being in shambles and start blaming you when they're the problem. And this makes me think of Ted Bundy again, how he got so irregulated before he got arrested. He had to drop out of college. He tried to keep his environment neat and clean and perfect to make himself more stable. And he was with a woman that helped him be stable, but when he got away from her, he got a little bit more unstable. He was a very sick person, but it was carefully covered up. And I heard some of the investigators talking about that behavior too with some serial killers, of just being very unbalanced and being taken over and controlled by things too. That's part of it, especially if there's drugs or alcohol involved and things like that. Another thing Ted Bundy needed after so many murders was drugs to balance him out. But they can be very imbalanced. Now, some of them can seem like they're neat freaks to the max with perfectionism and control too, though. But they can be very imbalanced and throw you off balance. A lot of them need emotional regulating, and they need the supply to do that for them. But there's different degrees of this, and I've heard different complaints about this, or, sometimes and sometimes not. But this is how they can be like really limited in their views too, and not balanced. Like, they misinterpret people easily sometimes because they're thinking very limited toward a person and very imbalanced. And sometimes you have to keep reminding them, but they didn't mean that because they texted this and then they walked over there and said that, and they were bringing this with them. So there's no way that they meant, like, it's hard for them once they get stuck on, oh, that person rejected me, or that person did something toward me and hates me. I've seen therapy help people with this, help a person with this kind of problem. I don't know if that was a narcissist or not, but I've seen therapy really over years help a person not misinterpret everything as specifically against them and against them only, for example. But they can be very imbalanced and limited in their view and not see everything. And that can lead to such sickness. It can be very stressful. And this is why they may choose some of their defense processes, is an imbalance in the way they view. But a lot of times empathetic people will get trapped in, I want to help them. If only I could try one more thing. If only I could do one more thing. If only they had this, it would work. It's always the next thing that will work finally to help them. They have to be willing to change consistently and be showing major change, and they have to be like, this bothers me and I don't want to do this. And I mean, a lot of times things bother someone, but it's not enough. But there has to be like a continual letting the light in, humility, and continual improvement. And usually it's best without their supply around. That only enables the disease, sadly. This fragmentation and extremism is closely related. The black and white thinking, the splitting. And it's also related to demonic and fantasy theory of always fantasizing about an extreme that they desire, and it's addictive. So when you're walking more in reality and you're accepting and open to things being just different and fluid, and not everything is a super high and a super addictive, and everything's kind of mundane and ordinary and normal, that's where you're more flexible and free and flowing and blessed by God and open to other people, open to the world, open to differences and changes and things outside of you and things that are not like you or with you, things that never knew anything about you. Just more open and flexible. So we've come down to our last category, the 18th category, and I'm putting a lot of related things into the category together of being emotionally weak.